All right, guys. Hey, excited to be able to have you guys on our Monday sales training call. I'm excited to be able to have my brother Arthur Forrest on with us. Just so you guys know, everybody like when you start building this insurance business, a lot of people have a list of friends and family that they contact, and then we also have a list called the chicken list. And the chicken list is a list of people that you want to join your business, but you're a chicken and you don't want to call them, right? Arthur Forrest was on my chicken list because I knew how strong he was in this business and I knew what he did prior. I've met Art when I was 19. We came through the same network marketing company together. We recruited a guy that recruited another guy that recruited another guy that introduced us to Art. And just for you guys to understand, Art got to the top of that company in 17 days. What took most people 7, 8, 9 months, he got there in 17 days. So, like, recruiting, phenomenal, can sell, do all that stuff. And I remember I get started here and I was like, okay, kind of similar model. Arts and real estate right now. I'm like, kind of complements what we do. And I'm like nervous to ask him, but at the same time, he's my brother, right? And so I go, hey, we're going. Matter of fact, he's in Vegas with me right now, and we're like, "Hey, I'm going to Vegas for a sales training. What are you doing Tuesday or whatever at this time?" He was like, "Nothing." I was like, "I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go to Vegas. You're going to see what I'm doing." And he came back and got his license, started crushing it. And so, just so you guys know, he's like this. Art is either the first or the second person I've ever contracted in my entire business. Like I've known Art longer than I've known anybody in my entire downline. Like that's not even a question, right? And I truly love him. And it's really cool to be able to see our lives since we known each other like 15 plus years ago. Art's a Division 1 football player as well. As you can see, his physique, he looks like a freaking mannequin. That's what we used to call him. But Art was a successful real estate agent as well, transitioned his career into selling life insurance. And for those of you that have heard my probate story, the agent that helped me get out of that was him. So Art, I love you, bro. Thank you for hopping on. I appreciate you. For taking time out your day and being with us here in Vegas and on this call as well. For those that don't know you, what is your story? What's your quick 30-second minute Dun and Bradstreet?
First and foremost, it's always good seeing everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. My story, give you a quick 30-second elevator speech how I got into this company outside of what Steven said. First and foremost, yes, we were with a multi-level marketing company. Both did very good. I actually got to school. We worked together hand in hand at each other's houses all the time until I got my scholarship to the University of Nevada, Reno. Went to school, still kept in good communication. And when I came back, obviously the first thing that you want to do is out of college is how to become a millionaire, right? First two things that you're going to see is going to be financial services or real estate. Just getting back from school, I actually was a car salesman for 2 months. I had enough mini deals to notice that that wasn't the right way I wanted to live. Took the advantage while I had a free time to get my real estate license while I was waiting for the next person up. So that was great. I loved real estate. But I still have my license active to this day. I still eat, breathe, sleep it. However, it was something that took away all my time freedom. And what I mean by that, this isn't just like a lead-based system that we're used to here at Family First Life. This, you got to generate your leads, whether it be door knocking, finding referrals, going in hot summers, waiting for the weekends to come so you can have open houses, so on and so forth. So even though this is a 7-day grind, it's a completely different entity. Stephen came to me and said, "Hey, brother, I know that you're doing great in real estate. I seen that you had a few sales. I think I found something that might be able to complement what you're doing right here." And he took the approach of more so how you can sell mortgage protection to your clients as opposed to doing this for full time. Just to give you a quick story too, obviously Steven has been in the industry for a few years. When I first saw it, it was in Las Vegas. Yes, we went with a good friend. We drove down here and hope for the best. What more can you show me? We already done everything across underneath the sun, so let's see what else this has to offer. It was a lot different back then. I mean, talking about pre-COVID when we first saw the opportunity. So right now, if you go to one of these business opportunity meetings, you'll see hundreds of people. In that case, it was like 20, 25 in my
If
line
if
seat,
that.
if that, we're lucky. So there was this one guy who was completing when he was in his presentation, he completely forgot what he was talking about. Like even though he had his slides right in front of him, he just blanked out, right? And he's like, you know what? I'm sorry, I get nervous in front of big crowds. There's 20 people here, bro. You know half of them already. But anyways, he's like, you know what? Just raise your hand if you made at least $20,000 last month. Keep in mind, it's about 25 people in there. And at least 15 to 20 people rose their hand. So it was like, okay, I'm not going to be stupid. I'm going to go ahead and see what this event opportunity has to offer. Came home, started study courses, and in 8 days I was licensed and it was on from there. So I guess I will spend the first half of this story more so saying why and you should stay in this industry. Trey Honeycutt always says, be here a year from now, and I can tell you why. So we'll explain that later down the road. But this has been an absolute blessing. Now I'm starting to take this from a part-time opportunity to a full-time investment, mentally, physically, and emotionally invested into this company. And it's been life-changing for sure. For
I
sure. I'm not
remember the first time, um, you talk about, you talk about trusting the system.
Mhm.
When we were in SoCal, we never had an office. You know what I mean? And the closest office to us was in Victorville. From where you live in Chino Hills, that's like an hour and a half drive at
Right.
least. And so I wasn't in that office because I was in the field running business. And Trey, you mentioned Trey. Trey was like, "Yo, come up. We'll dial, give you some old leads, and we go from there."
Mhm.
And I remember, I was in the field. I was running business already, and Art drives to the office, and he's at a dial session, but he's not dialing. And I think he's just scoping and listening to everybody. And I called Trey and I was like, "Hey, how was the dial session?" He's like, he was really observant. And I was like, "So like, did he make any calls?" He was like, "No." He goes, "But I sent him home with some leads." And I was like, oh, "Okay, cool." And I remember like the next day, Art was back in Victorville because he already had appointments. And he sold like 7 grand his first day in the field. And then I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be the funnest thing for us." You know what I mean? But like, I want to talk about that because we don't have it as good as we do now. Art, like, there's thousand scripts, different types of leads, work in different countries. And you can technically different states, different areas of the country. Like back then, like what was the training? Training was, yo, drive like damn near 2 hours up north one way, sit there for a day, and then pick up as much as you can, come home and do it yourself.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
1000%.
We have that now, kind of. We can do it on Zoom from the comfort of your home. Like you don't have to fly to see me. We can just hop on Zoom. We can get leads like that. Back then, you had to place a lead order. It had to take 2 to 3 weeks to fill, especially if it
Mhm.
was a Facebook campaign. We were definitely getting marked up on, right? And not only that, we had no idea what the ad said at all, right?
Right.
So like we had so many disadvantages going against us, and we still made it work. And that's why like the title of this call was like no excuse, just produce, because like that's just the short version of it. Like the grind of what we went through in the beginning, which was like so much more painful than what it is today, is like why it allows us to be as strong as we are today. you know you've dealt with some hardship. I think that's a fair word, right? Like I would put your story up against most in the company in terms of the shit you had to deal with going through this journey, right? For those, I mean, you want to share that. I don't want to steal your thunder, but you recruit a bunch of agents, you get your logo, you get the volume, and then boom, like your whole world crashes overnight, right? If you want to talk about the adversity that you dealt with.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to preface this though, even though my story is unique, I should say, everybody has their own individual stories. Everybody has their some shitty days and adversity that they have to overcome. So I want me to seem like I'm special or I'm going through it. Everybody goes through it in their own ways. Okay. So back in 2000, late 2019, I want to say it was right before COVID started kicking in. We had a brush fire in our house and burnt down our entire home. My family lost everything. Literally, I didn't even have, how most people say I had the shirt on my back. At that day, I didn't even have a shirt. Literally, I had shorts to my name. All right. So we lost everything. The stresses of my father, he didn't pass away at the time, but the stresses of losing everything he owned, it led him to having a heart attack and 6 strokes shortly after. So over that course of the year, We're trying to figure out not only where we're going to live, how we're going to survive, but what I cared about more is my Superman. I mean, it's crazy that Father's Day was yesterday. My father's my everything. He's my mentor. He taught me everything I knew. So watching him on his downfall was very hard for me. So that year, it was more so we had to put everything to the back burner until we actually figured out how we're going to do processes. Unfortunately, we built our house in 1990. So our insurance levels for homeowners insurance was for a 1990 house, not 25, 27 years later. So just to fast forward the story, became more so locked into the house, making sure everything's okay. My dad's still with us. Lost, and that's the biggest blessing out of the bunch. But when COVID came, that was like treachery on the list. I had a house that burnt down. My father at this point had 6 strokes. I watched him pass away 2 times. Um, as far as the rebuild of the house, we didn't have enough funds. So I was a contractor of the home. Like we had to do all the bids and trying to see what we do in business. So when I was finally able to get from the debris reconstruction to the actual build-up phase of the house, then I had a little bit of additional free time. And instead of going into homes at the time, remember it's pre-COVID, we were still going in houses. Instead of going into actual houses, I started building a team. I had to be able to provide somehow, some way. So spent tens of thousands of dollars, probably about $40,000 in a like an 8 month period, and try to get everything right situated. Remember, this is before any systems were around, no websites, no recruiting pages, no nothing. But spent a lot of money on Facebook ads, on Indeed, trying to zip recruiter. Did a lot of my time during the mornings and at night times building a team. Everything was great, but one thing I can also say for people that are just not getting into the industry, building your team as well, you have to be a servant leader. Okay. You can't just continue to point people into the right directions. It sounds good, but everybody's going to follow the flow that you naturally give. Me not being into the field and within certain situations, I went from earning my logo to back to start essentially. So it was just a lot of stuff that was happening. I don't want to just to spend so much time talking about what was me, but in my situation, it was I put myself second and third instead of focusing on myself to get out of that situation. But things went well. Time heals all. There's always going to be a sunny day after any storm. So it's a staying to the script. It was allowed me to see a brighter day, and here we are.
Dude, like I actually know Art's story. And like to hear him tell it to you guys and how humble he is, I'm like, bro, that's not even a fraction of what he dealt with. Like Art, your dad's business. Like,
Yeah.
just so you know, like Art's dad was like one of the top dentists in like California. Like he taught people how to do the stuff at USC. You know what I mean? While running his own practice and managing his book of business and doing all that. And you talk about scary, man. Like, you know what sucks about being good is like you're the show.
Mhm.
And when your dad got sick, there was nobody else that can run the office. And watching that stress hit you and the family and going, how are we going to keep afloat with rent? Nobody else can do fillings and crowns and veneer. Like no one can, only your dad can. And
Right.
that's where like it clicked, like, oh shoot, we need a business that pays us even when we don't work.
Hmm.
Because like, yeah, while the active income is great, life happens. You know what I mean? And watching that transition, bro. And here's why I say all that. For most people, they would have been out of the business, done, quit, whatever it is. And it was like we just stayed in touch. Like Art runs a different journey than most of us, and we just stayed in touch. And to this day, like he's still taking care of his entire family. And last month, with all the stuff finally being able to chill a little bit, boom, back on the phones, 20 grand a month. Right. And so I share this with you because that's Art's story. If we interviewed all 46 of us on the call, we have our own story to tell because we do. We do. But the question is like, so what? Nobody cares. We still got to work. Nobody cares. Work harder. Life don't care. Your mortgage company don't care. Property tax don't care. County's coming for that check no matter what. Are right? Like they don't go, oh shoot, sorry, here's a forbearance. No, like they're like, where's our check? You know what I mean? So I love it, man. Like you develop this like no excuse, just produce attitude. I want to know where that came from because that's so crucial in what we do. Being able to compartmentalize the crap we're going through, put it to the side a little bit temporarily, and be like, I'm on the phone with clients. I got to zero in. Like, where did that come from?
Be bluntly honest, my fire just got even hotter behind me. You know, my back was against the wall, but with time, it's also, I didn't tell you, within this past 6 months, I've lost three family members. My wife lost a family member. I lost my grandfather. Um, my dog died. It was just all within like the past 60 days. And we ended up finding some type of like termite issues in the house, what brought up thousands of dollars. So it was like, oh shit. Now I can't make excuses. And I was actually on Instagram one time and it said Sean Mike said everybody works hard when the back is against the wall. Okay, good job. So what? And when he said that, I was like, okay, he's talking to me directly. If I can go ahead and just sacrifice these next couple days, work 10-hour days, I can change everything. So even though I actually went to Louisiana for my grandfather's funeral a couple weeks ago, so that $20,000 is not really reflecting correctly because out of the month, about 13 days of which I didn't have reception at all. So, it's no excuse to just produce. In order to be able to get to where you want to be, you got to do what you don't want to do sometimes, essentially. So, I think it was just being able to actually feel the fire instead of just living day by day, living in a Truman Show, essentially. I was able to actually pursue my authentic ways and, I had enough courage to change my ways, essentially. And it shows, it was reflected.
You're 100. I love how you just said that. The courage to actually change my ways because like pressure comes and a lot of people fold. And then pressure comes, and then what happens is people that perform, they play well. You know what I mean? Like I'm a basketball fanatic, so for some of y'all, deal with me. Like Tyrese Halliburton, okay? Like the Indiana Pacers are playing the Oklahoma City Thunder in the championship right now. And I don't know if many of you guys know this. The media is who votes for like the MVP and coach of the year and all that stuff. The media, the people like the people that don't play the game get a say, which is really weird. But then the internal people, like the people that actually play the sport, they get a vote as well. And the 450 players in the NBA voted Tyrese Halliburton as the most overrated basketball player in the league right before the playoffs. And like, truth be told, I didn't think the Pacers were going to do what they did. And then now, guess what? His back's against the wall to prove people wrong,
Mhm.
to prove his colleagues wrong. He hit like game winner after like I think he had like two game winner in every series. He hit one to start game one of the finals, right? And I say that because so many people would be like, damn, that's right. I do get lucky to get to make a lot of money to play this game. While he's like, overrated. Let me overrate this MFer. You know what I mean? And I say that because so many of us like have our own stuff and we can allow pressure to make us fold, or we can courage up and do the thing, right? Like, all right, when we were young, man, like 19, we were at this previous company, right? I forgot who said this, but one of the guys on stage said this. He goes, man, if we took all the problems in the world, like if all 45 of us took our problems and threw it in a hat and we can see other people's problems, we'd be so quick to grab our own back out and
Yes,
be
sir.
accepting of what we have and be glad that we had that instead of what other people are dealing with. And like when I understood that, the perspective changed because I was like, yeah, I might be going through it and it sucks for me, but I ain't going through what they're going through, you know? And I say that because when you have some gratitude for the situation you're in, it allows you to perform, right? Um, so let's dive into some sales talk now. What changed production wise? Because
Avoidance
you went from
behavior.
writing six, seven to like 20 in like 2 weeks, right?
Mhm.
What changed?
It's completely avoidance behavior. I know. I let my situations control what I had instead of just taking life by the horns. Also, if I get this right, can't think of his name, but I heard this quote that says, if you avoid risk, then your business will suffer. And if you avoid failure, your growth will suffer. So I've been a winner my entire life. Like literally, that's the only thing I know. I've been an athlete competitor. I like tic-tac-toe. I don't like losing that. So being able to change your mentality to fit to who you really were. And I also say it's two parts. I don't want to make it sound like it's too much all mental. I'll be blatantly honest with you. It's also spiritual alignment too. Um, this past year, been waking up, changing my mentality instead of waking up at 6 o'clock. Now I try to wake up at 4:50, 5:15. Try to get into the gym now. When I first got out of college, I worked out my entire life. I'm like, oh, hell with that. I'm done with it. But I actually got back into the gym just to refresh and have those 3 segments of the day to accomplish and win the first part of the day before the actual day started. Getting into the Bible, having those conversations with like-minded people. Will Laura has changed my perception of life as well. Just having people that are, and also synergy too. Within that time frame, within that 20,000, I was ridden with those 2.5 weeks. The first week I was in Bakersfield for a lock-in. Then I came out to Vegas for 5 days. And out of Vegas, that was enough momentum just to have those 40-hour work weeks. I even tried to put in some time when I was in Louisiana as well, when anytime that we got on the road. So it was honestly just avoidance behavior. The only thing that's changed is just like mentally, I know I can do this. I'm watching these 20, 25-year-olds run laps around us financially, and it's just time to take care of business.
I loved it because like we're doing our week long lock in Vegas for the second time, right? And like we just kind of like made it up, right? Like me, you, TJ, we're like, all right, we're just gonna make it up. Like we're gonna come to Vegas. I'm like, you can't go home until you do 15 grand for the week. Like
Mhm.
we're just making this up. And what was really cool was like Amin joined us. And I remember it was just the four of us in the room when we started on day one. And we said, hey, here's a dog tracker. There's 300 little boxes. We have to check 2 pages, not one. Like one is 300. We're gonna go for 600. And what was so crazy was like you said, avoidance behavior, right? That was the first time Amin made $300 in one day,
But you see him on the leaderboard every day since then.
bro. But here's what's crazy. So that week long lock in, he stacks momentum because he has $300 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and he sells probably like 4 or 5 grand, whatever it was. But he gets out of the lock in and he sells every day for 3 weeks straight. Because what happened was we put the foundation in place. Like
Right.
this is what work is. This is what an 8 hour a day schedule looks like here. Because he was working 8 hours back then with avoidance behavior, making calls here, going to the gym in the middle of the day. He was doing it his way. But until you guys all came in and was like, hey, this is how we do it, it shifted his thought process. Yeah, Bobby said paradigm shift. And now I'm like, bro, like Amin will make a sale or two before he goes to work. And I'm like, he's gonna go to work with a big smile on his face. Matter of fact, he's probably pissed going to work
He
because
has
he's
to
like, I
clock
just
in.
made more money in a week than I made in the entire week, right? But I say that because that's what was learned.
Right.
Avoidance behavior so many times, like we don't get paid on the hours we worked here. Y'all are not hourly wage employees. Y'all are not salary employees. None of us on this call. We get paid straight on performance, nothing else. Meaning he can do more in an hour or two than most people do in a 10-hour day. And that's facts. In sports, art, like you're a football player, high level football player too, by the way, right? You can get done in 30 minutes more than some people stay in the field for 2, 3 hours. But they're bullshitting. They're lollygagging, grabbing ass, whatever they call it, right? Like they ain't doing anything. But I'm here. I'm working. No, you're not. You're here, but you're not working. And so, like, I say that because you said avoidance behavior. It was fascinating all the activity we tracked that week. Like, I remember like going into Tuesday, like you, Thomas, and Amon all had like 10 plus appointments for the next day.
Mhm.
It was fascinating. And then we just watched the momentum carry, right? Thomas gets out the lock in Monday through Friday. He's like, whatever week. Saturday, 8 grand. Sunday, 6 grand. And I'm like,
I love it.
right?
So,
Like, but that's what I'm talking about. So, like, for folks that are dealing with avoidance behavior, what is your suggestion? How do they focus and zero in to actually work?
question your reality. And we all get the same 24 hours a day, right? So the one thing that I can say that's kind of changed, like you said, that paradigm shift. I've worked 10 hours a day, but it's a difference between activity work and mental work. You know, that you can tell yourself that I've been at this all day long, but when you actually look at your dial tracker, you've been working for the past 8 hours and you only got 152 calls, and then were you really working like you thought you were? There's a lot of people that focus on um, mentally trying to get themselves prepared for the day. I see that all the time, especially with new agents. You know, they got to hype themselves up and tell themselves mantras and whatever they can throw sage or whatever. But it's not until you can actually tell yourself, like, I am a winner. I am going to win no matter what, whether this be a good day financially, a bad day, or financially or indifferent. I'm going to give it 100%. The activity is going to be shown. You can't lie with the pen and paper. You know, when you actually take that dial tracker and you changing it and you tracking your time by the time of day as opposed to how many dials that you made, I think that was also significant for me as well. Okay. Um, you can always tell yourself, okay, $300 is the end goal. I want to at least do that, but that's just giving yourself a limit. You know, you're still giving yourself a set point. When we came out here and went to work, and I also love coming out to Las Vegas as well because you can distract your distractions. I leave my family home. You know, we can have that conversation about how it went afterwards. I'm coming here just to work. Okay, so being very specific about your times, having goals to set before another set time, like two before two. You hear that a lot, trying to get two policies sold before two, so on and so forth. But it's literally just rewriting how you're mentally going to sell it and sticking to the script as opposed to saying, I'm going to do something and then the reality of things that you're over there playing with your phone on Instagram.
Right. And
Okay.
and that's the cool part is peer pressure. Like a
Right
lot
there.
of us hear peer pressure because in school, like in elementary school and in high school, peer pressure is bad, right? But peer pressure here in a work environment that's conducive for success is good for you. Because what happens is if Amin and TJ are on the phone and Art ain't, it's awkward. It's awkward because Art's like, they're talking to someone and I'm not. That's a healthy peer pressure. It's going
Exactly.
to usher us in the correct activity. Like earlier, Art makes the first sale of the day, which is awesome because he did it by like 8:40, which was so cool. And he's wrapping up his sale. He's done. And then Thomas and Amin are literally speaking to clients, and Art's the only one that isn't. And he's like, I love hearing them two on the phone, but I'm pissed because that means I'm not on the phone. And he's like, I need to get on the phone. I need someone to pick up. But you don't have that when you're stuck in your house by yourself.
Agree. I
Zoom's
agree.
great, by the way, because like we hear the same people over and over again because there's only like three people that want to actually unmute. And I appreciate y'all that do. But like when you're in an office setting, you can't run from it. They're right next to you. And so like what happens is we go, dude, you've been like radio silent for the last 15 minutes. Are you dialing or what? Because we can call each other out. That's the other part, accountability. You need accountability partners. Someone that's not gonna be okay with letting you slide.
Mhm.
Like if you and I were in the weight room, that'd be a really bad idea. But let's just say we were. And like I stopped on like the eighth rep. You'd be like, nah, two more. I can't. My arms are broken. Nope, two more.
You gotta
Right.
leave until it's done. Hmm.
But if I was by myself, I'm like, bro, I worked hard in those eight. I did it. No, you didn't. You cheated yourself. It's what you did.
Yes, sir.
Right. Your accountability partner won't let you cheat yourself. By the way, if you're taking notes, write this down. The best accountability partner is the person that's not in your team. Like they don't make an override off of you. Why? Because that's the person that can tell you the truth. My accountability partner in the field was Josh Crenshaw. That's why we work so well together. Because he can call me and like say stuff about my business. I'm like, damn. And I can call him and do the same. and actually mean it because we don't make an override off of one another. But like if my wife who asked for help, I'm like, no, you're good. You don't have to call that appointment. Nah, you can give it away.
One thing I would like to add to that too, as far as the accountability partner, especially you said somebody that's not direct to you, you want to work with somebody that's just as excited for you to get a sale than you are as well. There's a lot of people that's fake and you can feel the energy, but that's what's so special about our company, especially our lineage. Everybody's family oriented. You know, we cheer for each other, hope for the best, and actually applaud you before you applaud your own. Synergy's real here, man. I'll be 100% honest with you. You said, I think that's what you said for your company, right? This FFL Synergy. You
Project
know,
Synergy was a code name for our business. Yeah.
sorry. 1 plus 1 is always going to be better than two. And that kind of reminds me of a quick story that I heard about Bulgarian horses. You know, the big, strong horses. By themselves, they can pull 10,000 pounds. They can tow 10,000 pounds, which is amazing. But if you pair two Bulgarian horses together, it doesn't go to 20,000. It actually jumps up to 34,000 in towing. So there's always going to mean that 1 plus 1 is going to be better than two. We're built the same. Just like if you have the energy and the excitement, you might be tired. Like just like you said, I've been heard 30 dial tones at the moment, but you have your colleague right next to you, getting right back to it, it triggers you to get right back into line. So I'm glad that you said that for sure. Finding a workout partner helps out 1,000%.
But it's here's what's crazy. Like none of us are competing with one another
Right.
because we're not. Like we all run in different states. Like Thomas's favorite state to sell in is not the same one as yours and Amon's.
Hmm.
So like if Thomas hears Amon say something on the phone, he can correct him because he's not like, oh, because if Amon doesn't sell that lead, I'm gonna go behind him and close it. He ain't even in that state. You know what I mean? And so like I've never seen a work environment that we like what we have where people will actually tell you what they're doing to succeed because we're not competing with one another, we're actually completing one another. And
Mm,
the amount of times that like here's what's crazy, right?
I like that.
I can tell Art something and then Art can tell Amin something and then Amin can tell Thomas something, Thomas can tell Janelle, and like it's full circle, dude, how it works.
It's beautiful.
You know what I mean? And that's why I'm saying we don't compete. We complete. Like we actually come full circle around this whole thing. Because guess what? When Janelle was learning how to sell, she didn't want to hear from me. She called everybody on this damn call before she called me. And I trusted, by the way, I trusted every one of y'all to train her because she's in good hands. Right.
Agreed.
That's the beauty of accountability. Right. And so if you don't have someone currently right now that will call you on your BS, like you should find them because it's good for you. And like no one was, I mean, maybe Alondra was. I was rooting harder for Josh Crenshaw to get his red jacket than when I got my. Like I remember when like I still remember to this day in Phoenix at the Dream City Church, like when we walked up, like I was more happy to watch him get his jacket placed on him than for me to get mine,
Selfless leader. Hmm.
right? Because that's what accountability is. And like that's a workout part. Like we both won. You know what I mean? So let's dive into some sales stuff. Productions increased a lot. Obviously, you said avoidance behavior. We had our lock in, all that stuff. One of the things that I want to talk about is consistent lead flow
Right.
because that's the stuff that like a lot of people don't want to do. They buy leads by choice. And what I mean by that is they go, ooh, leads are running dry. Let me go to ILC, blah, 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 CRM center, wherever they want. And they go swipe. And then they get their leads and then they work their batch. And then they go, okay, cool, done with that. Swipe. Like they can buy leads whenever they choose. If you've been here long enough to hear me scream and shout about this, top producers have all their leads on autopilot. Like the reason why, like I can go through our top leaderboard. Wyatt, for a fact, I know is on autopilot. Hanan is on autopilot, right? Thomas, he had his biggest month in a long time. Leads are on autopilot. Amin's ripping a sale every day. Leads are on autopilot. Same with you, right? Leads are on
Success in
autopilot.
shows.
They just come in and you don't have a choice if you wanted to work or not, right? Because the leads are in, it's foolish to just let them go away. Can you talk about how scary that was for you? And then now, like, you can't function without that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that also fell in line with my set point. I lived enough time to unfortunately just feel comfortable getting all the bills paid until I was able to make a change in life. So I tried my absolute best to make that a lie. Like, no, that's impossible. I know there's some people out here that's buying them in sporadically, but no matter how you look at it, you can talk to 100 top producer agents, and 100 of them will give you the same situation. Buy more leads, get them on constant lead flow. And if you continue to try to beat on a dead horse, you can only let it go through one ear out the other, or you can actually sit down and listen to what they have to say and get some leads that's being on a consistent manner. Yes, I do now have a consistent lead flow that's coming in on a daily or weekly basis, which means that you now have daily or weekly opportunities to get new blood instead of, calling somebody 8, 9, 27 times and hoping that on the 28th time is going to be a different story. So I do recommend anybody, whether if you're starting off low or you have a decent budget, even if you're a couple $100 to spend, it doesn't mean that you don't have to consistently spend that couple $100 until you can finally play with house money. I actually last month went into two different things, whether it been Facebook leads. I dribbled in a couple of age mortgage too. And then finally the ethos abandoned cart. Those are the three that we worked with consistently. And working with new numbers by far is like the most is a breath of fresh air. I can put that in the best sentence because you're not fighting yourself. You're talking to people that actually remember filling it out recently and actually have some type of intent to get this done before the week's over, as opposed to somebody that you spoke to years ago and it was a distant memory. So I definitely recommend you start campaigning as soon as you can.
Here's the other part too, right? Like the lead you just sold this morning,
Hmm.
because like he gets on the phone and wraps it up in like 20 minutes. Right before this call, by the way, he had another one on, and I was like, dude, you should have just closed it. I would have pushed the call out a little bit longer. I would have bought you some time. And it would have been like two sales before 10, right? But here's the crazy part. I was like, man, like, damn, that was an easy appointment. Like it was a lay down, right? I was like, when that lead come in? He was like, yesterday. I was like, oh. He goes, yeah, shot her a text message. She booked, spoke to her. She picked up. She bought insurance. Here's what's crazy, Art. When you have automatic leads, that happens every week. And then what happens is like when you don't have automatic leads, you're grinding. You're grinding for leads. Like you're grinding for scheduled appointments. You're grinding for appointments. Like you're working to close. And
That's
I'm
true.
not saying don't work, but I'm like, bro, I'd rather work smarter, not harder. You know what I mean? Like
I agree.
that's where, yeah, Janelle said it right. Like that's where commission breath comes. But like when the lead comes in and they're like, yeah, I filled that out yesterday. Yep, you have the ability to just like people go, how did you sell so much insurance, Steve? I was like, bro, like I just sold laydowns. Like I didn't sell, she bought. Exactly, Joy. Like I didn't sell, she bought. I just happened to be the person that she bought it from.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, but like people are like, how would you overcome this objection? I'm like, more leads.
That's it.
I'm like, I hear some of you guys overcome objections. I'm like, damn, y'all good. Cause I don't do that. And I don't want to do that. Part of it is like, if I got to try so damn hard to convince you that insurance is good for your family, I might be in the wrong business.
Mm. No
So I
lie.
rather sell people that go, yeah, I fill that out. Yeah, I wanted it. Yeah, it's probably a good idea to take care of my wife, my kids, my loved one. Yeah, let's buy it. I want to find those people. You know what I
Totally
mean?
agree,
And by
bro.
the way, your persistency is stronger when you sell those people because you didn't have to fight them on it. And then when they hang up, they don't go, oh, was that a good idea? Right? Like they're like, no, I wanted that. And they can't buy it themselves. So they have to buy it through us. You know what I mean? That's how you increase persistency, by the way. Um, we talked about synergy. You want to know what was one of the biggest tests and nuggets that we picked up was
What's
last time
that?
you guys were here, you guys were making phone calls and y'all would go like 30, 40 calls without a pickup. And I'm like, hey, I think your phone numbers suck, all you guys. I'm like, try a local number, try this. You were calling California out of your phone, and then boom, it was like every other call was an
Yeah,
answer.
it was actually surprising. I'm glad that you brought that up. So I actually went 123 calls with just one conversation. And then as soon as I got a local presence number, I had like 10 booked appointments in 2 hours. So it does make a significant difference. You hear some people, I mean, I'm not going to say that's the end all be all. Of course, I mean, my whole entire business was built off of one area code. However, success leaves clues. Um, Blake, I just seen he had a killer week. It's crazy that I'm over here talking, but he wrote the same amount over the past 5 days that I wrote last month, literally just off of systems. And you just try to figure out what you can implement and what you should take out. One of which that we just now found out as of the past 30 days is that area code does make a difference. I keep in mind that we're fighting and battling against these telemarketers that are sending out 15 calls so on a daily basis. Even I try to use a toll-free number. Toll-free number kind of looks like a bill collector. So it's like, okay, the best way you can get somebody to get in contact with them is by somebody that had constant communication or at least had an idea of who you are. There's a great chance that if somebody's calling you from your area code or surrounding cities, then there's a better chance that you're going to answer it just because, like, is this somebody I didn't save on my phone? Also, a really good hint if you're focused and you only have iPhones and you're in the point of your business where you can't buy a secondary number, if you have an iPhone, text your person first, say this is Art, this is Arthur, Alex with a sentence, and then when you actually call, the caller ID will pop up and say maybe Arthur, possibly Arthur. So that's just a
Nugget.
quick hint. Okay. So, but if you do have the opportunity, you're scaling out appropriately, you're doing this right on the telescript side of things, you're working with multiple states, the best thing you do is give multiple numbers. Sure,
And
for
and
sure.
Art, where did we pick that up? Synergy with other agents.
Well,
You know what I
yes,
mean? And this is why, like,
agree.
write this down. You only get so much, you get what you put in. If you participate in the group, you get love from the group. You don't participate in the group, you
Mhm.
probably don't. You got to save yourself too. Like it's the guy that's like, this was me. Bad story, but it's like the guy that's drowning out in sea, and then they throw you a life raft, and you're like, nah, man, it's too far. Like, bro, you got to save yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
you got to swim to the life raft, bro. Like, they're not coming to get you. You know what I mean? Because now that's two people that are stuck in open water. Like, you don't want that problem, right? So like that's what I'm saying though. Like, you can't receive the information to change your business if you don't participate. Where do we pick a lot of those things up? On Zoom, on these training calls, in the Telegram group. Like, that's just like I'm literally watching Hanan sell. Like, I pop in here and there because half the time I'm dealing with stuff I don't want to deal with. And I hear Hanan go, have you ever held a death certificate? And I was like, that's a bar. I'm like, you asked the client if they've ever held a death certificate? That's great. Wow. Write that down. Cause like most of them haven't.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is why I need
Oh,
the information. Have you ever held that death certificate? Death certificate? No. Then you wouldn't know.
hmm.
I was like, oh, right. Like, but that's the stuff that we pick up because we participate. We have to participate in our own rescue. Art, someone asked, like, what CRM or dialer do you use? Kathy, my answer is like anything works. Some people use Ringy, some people use Maverick with Wave, some people call out their cell phone, some people use Ring Central. Just call, just call,
You know?
right? Because Art, this game is threefold. As a brand new agent, the goal is the activity, the volume of activity has to come first.
Mhm.
The $300 has to come first. And then what happens is, like, after you do $300, we go, okay, you got that part down. Now let's look at the presentations and or let me take a step back. The pickup rate. Because if you make 300 calls and only two people pick up, your phone number is spam likely, bro.
Mhm.
There, you worked, proud of you, but like that was stupid work because they didn't answer the phone, right? So like eventually when we do coaching, we go, all right, you made $300, but how many people actually picked up? Oh, this many people picked up. Okay, how was that into your presentation? If the number is smooth, we go great. If the number is bad, we go, ooh, the
Mhm.
opening is off, right? We tried that last time. You and Amin, you were like, damn, man, they keep hanging up on me. I'm like, I think you're long winded. And you're like, all right, I'm going to cut this out. And then what happened was Thomas was like, yeah, I think so too. And I'm like, bro, like nobody said anything. But we heard you do it for like an hour, right? And then what happens is like we pick up things to say and not say. Like Amin, when he was new, thank God you don't do this no more. Like he was a big permission asker. He was like, Mary, do you mind if I do this? Is it okay if I follow? I'm like, no, just follow up with it. Right. But you guys are there to be able to go, no, no, no. Hey, cut that. Don't ever say that again.
Great.
That's the beauty of being in the fold. Right. Um, what are some things, because you've led a group too, what are some things that new agents struggle with that like if they can fix this aspect, they just get that much better in the business?
They compare what they consider work. If that made any sense. I was once told that if you have a W-2 employee job, you're gonna put 80% of your work within 20% of the day. So there's a lot of dead time,
That's so good.
regular W-2 that a lot of people are just used to conform with. They've just been doing the same thing for so many years. So I would say you got to literally change who you are. I'm not trying to say outside of work hours, but when you clock in and this is what you're doing, you have to be somebody else. All right. Some people call themselves Bruce because they're a shark, or I heard somebody say they're Jason because they're a killer. Not saying to change your mind mentally, but I'm saying more so if I'm a very quiet, mellow, I stick to myself, man of very few words. But when I get on the phones, if I'm in an isolated area, I typically get louder. There is not that much please and thank you. You'll hear me smile and giggle over the phone just because, I'm still respectful. But at the end of the day, that's where you get that doctor-patient relationship. When you, like you say, and he's very respectful, just as, one of the tier class people that you'll ever meet. But when he got on the phone, he was soft and subtle. May I ask, is it okay if I think we should, instead of telling him where we're going to be, being a little bit more direct. And I think that's where we got that momentary disgruntled employee mindset from, because you got to like shift who you are to get business done. Sean Mike, he's directing the wrong like this when he's in business mode, but you have opportunity to talk to him when he's off a stage, then he's a different person. He's calm, you respect it too. So you just got to know when you click in, have your expectations and meet them. Okay. That could be another issue. Somebody said, okay, today is going to be a day where I'm gonna get my $300 in. But if you only got 100 and something in, then you're letting nobody down but yourself. So having expectations that are actually possible to hit, make sure that the bar is almost too high where you feel like that's not possible. And also, when you have good days, make sure that you stay level-headed. The bad days are going to come, and when you have bad days, stay level-headed because you're going to have those peaks that are going to come as well. So, those are two things I'll say: mentality and the direct approach of being assertive over the phone as opposed to being subtle.
Dude, it's funny because you know how confidence is built? Confidence is built through small wins and promises you kept to yourself. I'd
Mm.
write that one down. That was a good one.
I'll say
Confidence
that
is
again.
kept through small wins and promises you keep to yourself. And so here's what happens. People come on and they go, I'm going to make 400 calls. And they don't because they're new. But I go, but you dialed today. I'm proud of you. That's a small win, right? Now, here's the thing. Can we dial tomorrow? Can we stack days together now? Right. And then what happens is like, see, so many people are fixated on the result. You can't control the result. You can control the activity that controls the result, right? Like if I call no one today, I'm guaranteed to make no sales.
Mhm.
Like that's a fact, right? But if I call a couple hundred people, I'm bound to sell someone based on law of large numbers, right? So I can only control what I can control. So I can't get mad about the result. I can only get mad about the activity. So, like, if I go, I'm a brand new agent, 300's a big number. Can I make 100 calls today? And you do. Even though that's not what everybody else does, it's a win for
The
you.
win. Hmm.
And so you check that box. And what happens is you go, okay, I did 100 today. Can I do 125 tomorrow? Can I push it at 150? And then you build this confidence. And then what happens is when the confidence momentum is high, things all of a sudden fall into place.
Group race, yeah.
That's how it usually happens. And the promises that you keep to yourself too. Because here's the other part. Like you said it earlier, like so many people are like, I'm gonna wake up early and do these things. And then the alarm rings and they go, I'm too tired. I'm rolling to bed. Bro, you already lost. You're 0 for 1 today. That's not a good day. That's not a good way to start the game, being down 10 points right off the bat.
Right.
Right. Um, Bernard, I say that because like, you know, Michelangelo said he was like, I'd rather someone set goals that are so high and when they miss, they're at least within the stars, rather than the people that set low goals and hit them all the time. Like there's a healthy balance of both. Because like, let's say you set a goal for 400 and you only do like 370. It's better than the guy that said, I was only going to call 50 people and actually hit that number.
Mm-hmm. 1000%.
Right. There's a healthy balance of both, you know? And so that's what you got to take into account for in your own business. For those of you that are brand new, you need the small wins, but then you also have to stretch yourself too. Right. So, Art, any last words as we wrap up with this call, man?
Last words. I would say, well, first and foremost, thank you everybody that's taking the 50 minutes, hour out of your day to listen to us. But make sure that you're on the next call. Thursday, Monday, Wednesday. There's a reason why we have a system in place. And even when you feel like you know it all and you heard it all, it might be a word track or a tonality. It might be something as simple as area codes that you might catch. I'll always say make sure that you hop on any training as possible. Believe in yourself at the end of the day. If you're not going to believe in yourself, who is at the end of the day? People can smell when you have commission breath, and they can also smell when you're having a bad day. We're like cats and dogs. Like literally, you can sense it over the phone. So, in order to win the day, you have to win your heart, win the 6 inches between the temples too. I do appreciate your love and have love for yourself and respect what you're doing. If you have a purpose and a why, have that why posted somewhere. If it was your children, make sure you have a picture of your kids there and make sure that you can help your parents out of a situation. Have a conversation with them here and there and let them know that I'm working for you. Don't just be doing this just because this is what you chose to do. Do it for a reason and have an exit strategy. I'm not saying that you want to sell forever, but there has to be an end goal in place. You're not doing this just for today and tomorrow. Make sure that your goals are going to be met. And I'll be the first one to tell you that if you have an opportunity to take advantage of some type of lock-in where you're going to be with like-minded individuals or maybe hopping on Zoom here and there, that's probably the best thing you can do because this is a lonely business. But once you have an accountability partner, it goes tenfold. You almost work for the people around you as opposed for yourself. So
I love it, man.
appreciate you guys.
Bro, it's so cool because you want to know how I learned who to follow in this business? The attendance log. It's really easy. Like you said, we have calls for a reason, right? We don't just go, hey, let's just ruin everybody's day and put 3 calls in the middle of their calendar. Like no one has the time to do that crap, right? But like here's why I say this. We were in network marketing, and I don't want you to tell me what you're gonna do. I want you to show me what you're gonna do. And to be able to see like Alondra on the call, Josh on the call. By the way, I'm willing to bet money. Alondra, Josh, and myself probably know more about the insurance business than probably everybody on the call, but we still hop on. Why? Because there's things we pick up that we're like, damn, that was good. Like, yeah, we can take that and implement it. Might not be for us, might be for a person on our team, right? But we hop on calls not to be selfish always for ourselves, but it's for other people too on our team that might be struggling with something that I'm listening for to be able to give them the value,
Mhm.
right? And if I like, here's how like I knew I outgrew my mentor in this business. Well, he's not my mentor. He's the guy that recruited me. He was my mentor for a little bit. When I started showing up to events and like he wasn't there. How do you tell me to go to training or convention and then like you're not even at training or convention? I outgrew you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And so like to be able to lead from the front, or that's why I say this, because you got a group growing, but you're on the calls every week, every one of them too, regardless of where you're at. And a lot of you guys are. That is like step one of building the foundation of building a team, because so many people talk about what you should do. I don't want to hear what you do. I want you to show me what you do. Jesse McPherson, I love this guy, and we'll wrap up with this. He's my first mentor in business, and I love the guy to death. I still talk to him to this day. Write this down. There's a bar. He said, make sure the tongue in your shoe matches the tongue in your mouth. That you don't just talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. And I was like, that was all I needed. So many people will tell you what they're going to do. I want you to show me what you're going to do,
Mhm.
right? Make sure the tongue in your mouth matches the tongue in your shoes. So good, right? Art, I appreciate you. Thank you guys for hopping on. This upcoming Wednesday, like we said, we have Mutual of Omaha, Dylan Cummings talking about the IULE product. This upcoming Thursday, we have James Roberts, who is growing faster than anybody in our group. No questions asked. He's putting 30 people a week in pre-licensing. Majority of the new writers that we have in our group right now are on his team. I want to find if I was trying to build a business, I would want to find out what he's doing. Just saying. Cool. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Be blessed. And as always, we'll see you at the top.